Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, Stories from the 78, right outside the Mercury Theater on Southport, talking to my friend Cindy Fee. And you know Cindy's voice if you love the Golden Girls. Then you'll know her voice. She's got a one-woman show happening inside the cabaret theater that is the Venus Cabaret inside the Mercury. So I'm going to talk to her now for this story from the 78. Oh, there she is right there. So we're going to say hi to her. All right, so take a look inside here. We're at the Venus Cabaret inside the Mercury Theater. I'm here with my friend Cindy Fee. How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm lovely. So we met, first of all, at the Golden Girls pop-up shop that was over in, I believe, Bucktown about a year or so ago, and we talked about your career. But for the folks that haven't seen that by chance, explain to folks why they might know you.
Well, I've sung a million commercials in my lifetime, everything from Wheaties, What the Big Boys Eat, to Hoover, Nobody Does It Like You, Pontiac, Get on Your Pontiac and Ride. I have records. I'm an artist as well. But the main thing you would know me from is many, many years ago, I sang the Golden Girls theme when I was just a wee lass.
Wee lass. Can you give us a little bit of that real quick? I just want to see if for folks who still might not know for some odd reason.
Sure. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Do you want the whole thing?
No, I mean, I could all day long, but I won't do that to you.
Okay.
So thank you. You've been singing those since you were about 16 out in Kansas City?
I've been singing.
Professionally, I should say.
Professionally since I was about 15, 16 in Kansas City, yes, Raytown, Missouri.
And that's where you you did soul country is kind of your music vibe from what I was reading. Is that right?
Yeah, soul country. I think it's kind of roots, you know. I was born in Detroit, so Motown, a little bit of Motown in there.
Yeah.
And everyone out of Kansas City has a little bit of everything. We're jazz, we're country, we're soul, we're rock, you know, we're blues. It's just kind of a melting pot of America.
And you also had a band you started back in Kansas City as well, right?
I had several bands in Kansas City.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Well, I started with a trio and then was in a really cutting edge rock band called Hotfoot that was there for a few years. I was too young to go into the bars we played at, but I was in that, and then I was with a jazz trio for a couple of years, making money to move to Los Angeles to further my career.
And that's when the jingles started to take off for you, right?
That's correct. That's when I got into jingles fairly quickly. I did really well in Los Angeles, and it was an amazing scene. You know, back in the 80s when jingles were just huge, and there was just really one network TV, and when you sing in jingles, you're walking in, you're doing it really quickly, so you're singing with and playing with the best of the best.
Right. So you have like session musicians that are in there doing. Some of these session musicians perhaps are on other albums that people might not even realize that, you know, because session musicians work because they're session, right? So they could be on the Beach Boys record to then doing a jingle to then doing something else, right?
Exactly, and not just the musicians, but the singers. Absolutely. We were on everything as well.
We're in this cabaret space because you were kind of doing something a little bit different, right? You're kind of doing, looking back at your career all the way from professionally at 15, 16 to kind of like right now, and you were reflecting after the pandemic because you didn't want to be done. You didn't want to be retired, and you were like, this is not what I like. It was almost like that Talking Heads song. This is not my beautiful life, right?
Well, kind of, yeah, because if you're a musician or a singer, you know, unless something happens to your instrument or your fingers, if you're a musician, you know, you don't ever really retire.
Right.
You know, I mean, I sing whether I'm working or not. It's just kind of a part of my makeup.
The show that you'll do here at the Venus Cabaret, what are people in for when they come to see you, and when does it start?
It starts next week on Friday and Saturday, the 24th, 25th, and then continues May 31st and June 1st. What you're going to see basically is my life in music with friends, because I have made music since the day I was born. Apparently I laid in my crib and sang as a little kid, and music to me is really kind of my preferred language. So whatever I'm singing, whatever I'm doing, I'm always singing.
So what was the thing that you were like, I don't know if I should put this in? Oh, I really don't know if I should put this in, but you put it in to push yourself a little bit. So I imagine there were some things in there you're like, I don't know if I want this in, but you know what? It's a thing, I'm gonna do it.
Well, you know, as a singer, as a recording artist, as a session singer, you know, there were a lot of ups and downs throughout the way. I met an amazing amount of really, really famous people. I met an amazing amount of talented people that weren't famous, that should have been famous. And for me, probably, I mean, I don't know if there's any part of it that I'm reticent to put in there, but there were definitely in the entertainment business, in the recording business in particular, there were some people that probably should never have been in there that were in positions of power, you know. So, but I'm not naming names or anything, but basically I'm just kind of talking about all of it. My experiences in music, you know, from my time living in Detroit all the way to today, and how I view the music world, things that I think about music, about art, and about what's going on today in today's world.
Right, and you were a part of that scene of the jingle writing back in the 80s were fast and crazy times, right? But I imagine difficult at times being a female in that male-dominated entertainment world that was Hollywood back then.
Well, I can't say that I really noticed that in jingles or even session work as much. I noticed it in the record industry, because certainly in the record industry there was this whole concept of trying to put you into, by then the industry was mostly being run by a lot of business people. So it was trying to put you into a little hole. And part of why I was so successful as a session singer is that my voice is a little different. I can sing anything, and I do sing everything. So it was a little hard to classify me. As you'll see, if you come to my show, I'm kind of a mix of all these different styles, you know, uniquely myself. But what I bring to music is the fact that for me, it's just letting it flow through you. You know, it's not, you know, I don't even think about it that much. To me, it's the emotion of the song, as it was the emotion of jingles. The emotion of anything that I sing comes through.
Right, and you've had some historic jingles. I mean, we mentioned the Golden Girls. You work with Kenny Rogers on a couple of his albums. You've done a few things. So what's the song that still gets you a little bit when you talk about it?
Well, I'm going to do one of the tunes. I sang with Kenny on a Christmas record that he did, and he had this song that was written by a dear friend of mine who is, rest in peace, departed. That's called Kentucky Homemade Christmas. And forgive me for doing a Christmas song, but this song just breaks my heart every time I sing it. I'm singing songs that mean something to me for people, you know, both friends and things that I did all the way along, starting in 7th grade at the 7th grade talent show when I first made my mark as a singer.
Do you remember the song that you sang at that talent show?
I do. I sang Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Oh, a little Otis Redding.
Little Otis Redding, yeah. My Motown roots showing through my soul. And I really love Southern soul, you know, which is, you know, Otis Redding for sure.
So you've done many things, you performed live many times, but what will separate that from this space here in Chicago at the Mercury here?
Well, normally when I'm performing, it's in concert. And when you're in concert, you know, I do talk to the audience, I always do, but this is more of a retrospective of my life in music rather than what particular songs do I want to sing at this moment, what particular songs have I just recorded. This is more the songs and the experiences in my life that really meant something to me. And the people, of course.
Absolutely, and the relationship that you had with that jingle for the Golden Girls, I imagine that gets brought up in the show, but with that relationship, what are you most proud of with that in terms of the song with the show, the characters on the show? Where are you at there?
Well, I'm proud to be a part. I guess you can say I'm the really last remaining Golden Girl. I'm proud to be a part of that show because it was such a groundbreaking show on so many levels, and a show that I don't think would ever be done today in today's world. You know, with our experience of youth, the youth culture. And what's so wonderful about that show is that people of all ages listen to it. You know, when Zach Hudson did the very first Golden Girls convention, I was expecting old people. I had no idea what to expect, and it was really mostly young people. It was truly wonderful, and the one thing that they all had in common was that they were all wonderful people, and they were all looking for connection. And that's what I think that show brings to people, the fact that you can make a family, and indeed in some cases, you know, the family you choose can mean more to you than the family you're born with. So
absolutely.
I think that in itself is what has led to the longevity of the show and the longevity of the theme and the fact that everyone knows it. That's what's amazing to me.
Right, and I imagine that will be reflected in the audience that comes here. You'll have older, younger, you know, and I imagine some that will surprise you just based on you talked earlier, there was just network TV before, broadcast TV. Now they're streaming. And it seems like the Golden Girls has found new life on streaming with millions of people tuning in on a monthly basis. On Hulu, I know the numbers were crazy, but really almost a rebirth when, unfortunately, when Betty White passed, the Golden Girls skyrocketed again, just because people knew her from other things at that point, other things that were beyond the Golden Girls. And then they're like, oh, she was also on this show, by the way. That was this thing back in the 80s and 90s.
I think so, and also the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because in the pandemic, everyone was looking for connection. And that show is nothing if not about connection.
Absolutely. How long are people expected to stay and hang out with you when they come see your show?
The show will probably be about an hour and a half with a very short intermission. They're making me do an intermission. I really would rather just start and go all the way through, but there'll be a short intermission.
Well, they got to sell some drinks, right?
Yeah. I get it. The business of music. I know that.
Does it still make you nervous to do something like that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you ever are not nervous, then you really don't care. I don't care whether it's, walking into a session, whether it's singing something live, whatever it is, you want to do your best. And as an artist, I approach every project the same. It's just, I'm not nervous once I start, but I'm always nervous before I go. And it's been that way my whole life.
Well, that means you care, like you said. Do you have any pre-ritual things that you do before a show? Besides like the warm-up exercises?
You always warm up, because no one wants to get out there on stage and not have your voice ready to go. But really not any particular warm-up rituals, just more of, I like to spend a little time by myself. I don't like to eat before I sing just because I kind of, I feel like this is kind of what I'm eating. The music is
right.
what is nourishing me at that point.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see the show. People can come out. Where can they get tickets?
Mercury Theater, Chicago.com.
Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. And I got to ask, just because I did it to you, and I apologize, does it sometimes drive you nuts? People ask you to sing the song?
Well, it depends on the context. Once I was followed around a blueberry patch while I was picking blueberries by kind of an annoying girl that found out I sang it and kept asking me to sing it. But no, not really, because most of the time it means something to people. It's not just that, they know that I've sung this song. It's that the song itself means something to them. And so that's a lovely thing to be a part of. And
I imagine the reactions you get from people when you sing it, I'm sure sometimes still surprise you.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, sometimes people cry. So, it's amazing the reactions, because in many cases, a lot of younger people watched it with their mothers or their grandmothers, and it brings back the memory of them together. And so, I've really, when I was younger, perhaps I didn't pay that much attention to it, but now I've really learned to embrace it.
And it's a one-woman show for the most part, right? So this is kind of all, no pressure. It's kind of all you out there doing your thing. Do you love that, or are you terrified of it?
I'm not terrified of it. Once again, before I start, I get a little nervous, but once I get out there, I'm pretty comfortable with an audience. And singing is sort of, like I said, it's what I've been doing since I was born. So that's the most natural state for me, much more natural than talking, actually. Although I certainly have a lot to say. I'm not afraid of talking.
No, well, and people want to listen, and they will have that chance coming up here next week. So thank you, Cindy. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, that is the story from the 78 here at the Mercury Theater, the Venus Cabaret show with Cindy Fee. TomBarneyChicago@gmail.com if you have a story from the 78. Hit me up at the old website, storiesfromthe78.com. We'll see you later.